Good.
Hey everyone. So this week's parsha, we're dealing a lot with Yitzchak and Rivka, and we know Yitzchak loved Esav, and Rivka loved Yaakov. You could imagine that would be a source of great tension within their marriage, but we don't actually see any of that. We don't see them trying to get on the same page, discussing it. Torah tells us nothing about that. All we know is that when it came to the moment when Yitzchak was going to give the bracha to Esav, it was like Rivka was waiting for that moment, then she jumps to action, makes up a plan to make sure Yaakov gets the bracha instead of Esav. Why didn't they just speak about this earlier on? Also, at the very end of the parsha, we see that Rivka Rashi says, through Ruach HaKodesh, that Esav is planning to actually kill Yaakov. And so she tells Yaakov, look, you got to go to Lavan. But when she communicates that with Yitzchak, her husband, she doesn't say Esav is planning to kill Yaakov. She says, oh, Katsi b'chayai, I'm disgusted by the girls of this town. Let's get Yaakov a nice shidduch somewhere else. And Yitzchak then is like, oh, I have a good idea. Let's send him to Lavan. So like that was what she wanted to happen, but she didn't say anything about this Esav trying to kill him. What's going on over here? So I would describe Rivka as a communication genius, because communication is not just like, oh, how you say, how you express things. It's about understanding who you're talking to and understanding what they are capable of hearing and what not. Yitzchak was a tzaddik ben tzaddik. He was entirely righteous and knew only good. And for him, the concept of Esav not being good would have been so foreign, he wouldn't have been able to grasp it. Yitzchak loved Esav and couldn't see bad in Esav because Yitzchak's world was all good. Rivka, on the other hand, grew up in the house of Laban, and she knew what corruption was, and she knew what evil was, and she could recognize it and see it in Esav. And therefore, instead of spending a lifetime of disagreement and arguing, she just avoided the subject altogether. There was no point. She was never going to win that, and waited until the moment where it mattered. And she was waiting all the time for that moment, and then jumped into action and saved the day. At the end of the parasha, she wasn't going to try and convince Yitzchak that Esav is going to plan and kill Yaakov, because she knew that message was never going to land. So instead, she spoke to him in his own language and says, oh, look, you want Yaakov to marry a good girl. And then Yitzchak came up with the idea independently that Yaakov should go to Lavan's family. And what we learn from Rivka and her communication genius is there's really no such thing as trying to convince someone of any sort of position or philosophy. All we can try and do is understand that person and try and let them figure things out for themselves. Or if they're never going to figure out for themselves, then we have to be respectful and know that as well. And then kind of just like be there in the background, ready to save the day, exactly like Rivka did when the time comes, or try and convince them of how to try and show them the correct path through like a roundabout way, like Rivka did at the end of the parsha, where she helped Yitzchak figure out that going to Lavan was the best thing for Yaakov to do. And that is why Rivka is a communication genius. Thank you.
Great idea. Thank you very much. And same time tomorrow, same place. So.